Yeah, thank you, Randy, for that, and thank you, Tom, for sharing. I there were just several words and phrases that were ringing through my mind and heart as you were sharing the thought of sacrificial and selfless love that is required to be active and engaged and empathetic as you're listening to people, and then really that's epitomized, isn't it, in this phrase that I've used, and I'm sure it's not original to me, but it's this phrase called incarnational ministry, and it was epitomized, perfectly displayed for us in the person and the work of Jesus Christ, who set aside everything and became man and met us where we are, and served us and loved us so selflessly, so sacrificially. And so I just really appreciate your thoughts there. And so thank you so much for that. Thank you most of all for finishing early so that I don't feel bad about taking extra time. All right. So I'm up here to share a little bit about PACCT, and the part of the beauty of sharing here now is that this is a day that historically has been kind of set aside to focus on pastors, and now more recently congregations, and wanting to be a source of refreshment and encouragement. And that's really a big part of the work that PACCT has done, and the work that my office does, and in the context of pastoral care, okay, and congregational care, that we care for pastors, we care for congregations. The AFLC Rules for Work is one of our founding and guiding documents as an AFLC, and that document states that the AFLC president is to, it says, and quote, I quote, assist congregations and pastors by giving counsel and guidance when this is desired. I don't have much of a job description, but that's as close as I get to one, and that's so important for my role too, is to be a resource and an encouragement to congregations and to pastors. God has placed on my heart a deep care for both pastors and congregations. And I want to clarify something with that. It came up in a meeting last night, and I thought it would be helpful to share here with you all. I am not your boss. Okay? A shocked look from one, with a little bit of sarcasm, I think. But I'm not. Okay? I make light of this sometimes when I visit congregations, that when the president comes to visit, he's not there to wield his hammer of justice or anything like that. Okay, I don't come in and dictate to congregations or pastors what they can and can't do, or threaten them or anything like that. Okay, but neither are we to leave one another on our own either, right? My job is to rejoice with you in times of celebration, to weep with you in times of grief, to walk with you on difficult paths, whether it's a congregation in a season of pastoral vacancy or a pastor dealing with a challenge of some sort. In other words, my job is to be a pastor, not a boss. And a boss can care for his employees. I certainly hope that that's the case. But pastoral care, pastoral love is different. Sometimes it can include things like rebuke, right? But that's part of Christian life together. And so we should learn to be able to embrace even those things. But that's not ultimately what marks my job, okay? I love you guys. I love you pastors, you congregations. And I do love the congregation. And just briefly on that, Ephesians 5 describes this so beautifully, that Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might, just listen to these words, so that he might present her to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or blemish, that she might be holy and without blemish. May God give us all the eyes to see his bride, the church, manifested in the local congregation the way that he sees her. That is a stunningly beautiful picture. And so we love the congregation. My ministry associate, Jason Holt, shares this care for pastors and congregations. I thought I made a pretty good hire in him a couple years ago now, knowing his excellent administrative abilities, his knowledge of the association, and other qualities. I did not realize at that time how God had also given him such a deep care for pastors and congregations. That man loves you. And the work is too much for the two of us. And I confess that this thought has crossed my mind multiple times over these last years. If only we had this dedicated group of volunteers who are gifted and willing to help with some of this. And thankfully, in those moments, it doesn't take me too long to realize that there is actually such a group. And I praise God for that. PACCT is such an important resource for the AFLC. They care deeply about pastors and congregations too. You've perhaps heard me talk about this in other areas, but one of my takeaways in these these last 3 years, we'll see, I guess it's up to you in a couple of days, whether these are my first 3 years or my last 3 years, or both. One of my takeaways as president has been a deeper appreciation for the interdependence of our congregations. We talk so much about our independence, okay, but there's an unhealthy extreme to that, where we clutch that nugget of independence so tightly that we become isolated. And not only is that unhealthy, it's actually one of the tools of the devil. Congregations need each other. Christians need each other. And there's at least 3 fundamental principles, another founding document, that's dedicated to that reality of interdependence. It's a part of who we are. And it's interesting, in the fundamental principles discussion of interdependence, that's when national ministries are included. So a big part of our job is to help you and to help you help each other, because we need that as Christians. And so PACCT has been doing this now for about 6 or 7 years, and there have been some challenges for them that are not uncommon to a new ministry trying to find its place. And they've done some really great work too, and I believe that many of you have benefited from that. One of the challenges has been that they were tasked with helping congregations and pastors, which is a job that has historically been understood to be a part of the president's office, but they've been working separate from the president's office. And so it's kind of confusing when you have 2 separate entities tasked with doing the same job, right? At its most basic level. And so we obviously talk, and we've grown in our working relationship with one another. We've had some great success in that. But as the coordinating committee and I have talked through that in these last years, it became increasingly evident that that model wasn't the best stewardship of our time and resources. And so when PACCT was formed, the coordinating committee and the president were tasked with setting PACCT up. And so we thought it would be better stewardship to formally have PACCT and the president's office work together, and that based on the rules for work, it made total sense that PACCT would be a part of the work of the president's office. And so part of what I wanted to share with you today, in addition to our heart for you and our care for you, is that we're going to be making that change starting here in July, that PACCT will be an official ministry of the president's office, to bring that assistance and to really bring us together under one umbrella, working for you and to care for you. There are a number of you, I believe, who have thought that this was how it already was. And so why is this news? And as I understand it, actually having PACCT be a part of the ministry of the president's office was how it was originally intended by at least some who were involved in it in the beginning. That hasn't been necessarily how it's played out. And so the coordinating committee and I believe that this will help us to be able to better care for our pastors and congregations. There's other reasons too, for doing things like this. Having a formal structure of accountability and that kind of thing provides, frankly, better protection for PACCT. They are working sometimes with very sensitive information, and so they need that protection that comes with being an official ministry under kind of our structure in the coordinating committee corporation. As it applies to you all, very little, if anything, will change. But I wanted to explain this to you in the interest of transparency. And then my hope is that this will allow us to provide a level of care that actually does then change things for you, that you actually benefit from. PACCT is going to have better access to resources that headquarters provides, information about great opportunities for pastors. I just had this come to mind earlier. Marriage enrichment has been talked about, okay, as a future area of focus for PACCT. Okay, we want to encourage you and support you in your marriages. Those of you who are married, that's a big deal. Okay, did you know there's a group called, well, Family Life is who they're under, Weekend to Remember. Okay, it's a great ministry that I know many people have benefited so greatly from that. Those weekends, and they're nice weekends, they're free for pastors. Okay, and so I want us to do a better job of promoting and encouraging that. And we have people in the AFLC and outside who are active and involved in that ministry. And so I want to see us grow in areas like that. So we're going to be doing things like that. We're going to have more robust and consistent communication. And if that sounds vague, I want to give you an example of why that matters. As an AFLC, we've grown, okay, over time, and time does things, okay, to us, whether we like it or not, okay. But as we've grown and as time has passed, we've generally spread out, okay. There are pastors and pastors' wives out there whose spouses have died. AFLC pastors, widows and widowers, okay, that have lost contact with the AFLC, or they don't think to keep us updated, or maybe they do, but we just aren't equipped and staffed to give them sufficient care. We often have the information in my office to reach them, but not the time to do it. But now, with PACCT as a part of the ministry of the President's office, they'll have better access to that information, the ability to hear updates much more quickly, and they have the time and the resources to do that work. And we're talking about a demographic. I mentioned earlier that we need each other. Widows, widowers, those are people experiencing deep loneliness and loss. And I pray that better connection with them in those circumstances, that contact and encouragement and prayer from the President's office will remind them that they're not alone, that we're with them, and that we care. There are several PACCT members here. I see Wayne and Jane Smith in the back, and they're wearing their PACCT gear, and so you can go talk to them. Pastor Allen and Lisa Arneson. Lisa's standing in the back. I don't think I see any others, but feel free to grab them, to talk to them. We want you to know that we are a tool and a resource for you, that we want to encourage you, we want to pray for you, we want to help you however we can. Please know that we love you. You're not at all compelled to talk to them or to me, but we just want you to know that we're so grateful for you, that we care about you, and that we're willing to come alongside and help you however we can. So thank you again for the time, Randy, and I think it's almost break time, and I'm done even a couple minutes early.